daily perusing of Twitter earlier, I came across the unfortunate news that there's going to be a Willy Wonka prequel, which, you know, A, fuck you, and B, I think it was one of our friends in the Discord earlier pointed out that maybe those parts of the book shouldn't be literalized.
Willy Wonka colonialism.
Yeah.
Wait, is that where he saves the Oompa Loompas?
Yes.
Saves.
Yeah. Big air quotes on
Yeah.
saves there.
Don't they live on like a planet where there's like giant worms that want to kill him, like Dune?
I think it's an island.
Yeah, they're from like an island.
And there's like bugs.
It's like a jungle.
Yeah.
No, they're from like Mars.
They showed that like in that shitty the Donnie Depp remake.
Yeah.
And it was sloppy there, but this is, I think, kind of gonna go for something more like prestige. I mean, just because it's called Wonka, and it's starring Timothy
Chalamet.
Yeah, from what does it? Call Me by Your Name. I don't know. I mean, we'll see how they translate that, but it was just a pretty sharp grimace when I when I saw that.
I just want to see how Willy Wonka gets to their island. Does he
I
just rip a
the
hole
demon
in the time
boat.
space?
I don't.
Like, the man makes candy that lasts forever, I guess, and he's got a flying
Sure.
elevator, so...
Yeah,
what's dimensional travel?
The Chocolate Factory is just the first book, right? And then they get
Willy Wonka
they get
and the
real
glass elevator is the
weird
second
after
one.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Chelsea was telling me about that before. I mean, I did see like I actually did see some defenders out there that are like, it's the people that made, I think, Paddington or Paddington 2, and I was like, I don't.
Oh yeah, the two highest rated movies of all time.
According to Rotten Tomatoes, yeah. Which I have not seen either of.
Nope.
I'm sure they're fine.
I hear they're lovely.
Wait, like Paddington Bear?
Yeah.
That sounds adorable.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Maybe it's just this after this past like year and a half, I don't trust Joy right now. So it's like, but I think they're sitting at a pretty toasty 100%, right? Like no one's had a bad thing to say. Where's Armin White at to come in and, you know,
bring down the hammer?
Not getting.
Yeah, bring down the hammer on
Knock him down a
Paddington
peg.
Bear.
He did it with like Toy Story, right?
Yeah, well.
And No Country and a whole bunch of other.
What a monster.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, hello there, everyone, and welcome back to Hot Button. I'm Randall Beatrice, here with Austin Blakesley and Chris Nudaboom.
Hello.
Today we're here to talk about the legend, Mr. Donkey Kong himself. the Pac-Man kill screen getting, hot sauce slinging magnet of endless controversies, Billy Mitchell.
Well,
The Mitch.
we're here to talk about the lead up to Billy Mitchell.
He's the on and off holder of various gaming related world records and kind of the arcade's classic nemesis as well, with much of his infamous return to fame coming post-release of the documentary film The King of Kong, A Fistful of Quarters, along with the still ongoing feud with the sometimes questionable organization and Guinness partner, not the beer, Twin Galaxies.
Yes, the beer.
But yeah, prepare yourselves because this one is quite the roller coaster. Even in recent years, the story keeps changing. Thankfully, Chris is with us to educate us all and dive deep into his American flag tie wearing career. Also, I should state right now that Billy and his estate are known for being very litigious against anyone who dare to publicly slight him. So if we're lucky, we may even get sued ourselves.
A boy can dream.
Nothing beats getting
Also,
a hot subpoena.
Guinness Book of World Records was started by the beer company.
Yes.
Wait, is that true?
Yes.
They just separated from them.
It's a
Okay.
different business now, but it was started by the beer company.
No shit.
That's why it's called Guinness Book of World Records.
All right, I learned something today. And I had tons of those books growing up and roommates that, obsessively drank that beer, but never made the connection.
Did they also listen to Flogging Molly and celebrate St. Patrick's Day religiously?
No, although I one of them is very Irish.
Oh, there you go.
So we're going to do this in two parts, and also a commentary of that feature I just named. Which what year did that come out? Because I don't think I've seen it since. Was it
2007?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say late 2000s. I didn't know the exact year.
And that'll be cool to have some content or context rather, because I'm sure I'm much more in the now than I probably was when I was 17.
Yeah.
Because that movie is very much, I mean, manipulative is maybe a bit,
Manipulative.
yeah. It's edited in such a way to further demonize.
Yeah. I think it'd be probably best described as like a docudrama.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
I
there is
imagine-
kind of a pseudo-protagonist to
Yeah.
it, which documentaries don't
The way that
normally.
they frame the characters is not really,
Yeah.
truthful to who they are in real life.
I mean, I remember it being a very entertaining movie. Like, it's a good
It is.
story.
Well, it's
And the way
framed.
they present it,
It's
but-
framed in. It's edited and framed in such a way to present a narrative.
Yes. Very
That
much
narrative
Yeah.
may not be 100% accurate, but
As opposed
It
to
is
most
entertaining.
documentaries.
yeah.
So. Yeah. But
But yeah, are you ready to take us back to the neon lit 80s, or is it even further?
1981.
1981. Okay, that's what I thought.
I can't remember what happened in 1981, but
Blue Monday came out.
oh, what a good year.
Yep.
What a good year.
That was the most important
best.
thing that happened in 1981.
I can't think of anything else
Neither
off the
can
top of my
I. I
head.
wasn't alive. But that doesn't mean that
I know about
New-
things that happened before I was alive.
That doesn't mean that New Order was the most important thing in the 80s, dude. Just because you think so.
Well, Chris, what else important happened in the 80s?
Well, oh my God, what a perfect segue. Twin Galaxies first began as an arcade in 1981 in Ottumwa, Iowa.
The most popular hangout for the arcade
For the arcade industry, yeah. After a specific magazine shot them into the limelight, Twin Galaxies garnered partnerships with many different video game companies as well as Guinness Book of World Records.
Yeah.
Serving as Guinness's de facto branch of Video Game World Records, Twin Galaxies for many years was the official scorekeeper for many of the arcade classics.
Yeah, they're the authority that kind of keeps track of all that.
Yep.
Right?
It's still around today, albeit under new ownership.
Yeah,
And,
but you'll get to that.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And it continues to have a following that reaches across many different video game genres even today. And we can't really talk about Twin Galaxies without talking about the man himself, Walter Day, the
Yeah.
original owner and operator. So,
Which I will say, Twin Galaxies is still kind of forever associated with that era more
yes,
than like,
yeah. It was really revolved around Walter Day. He was sort of the personality, the leading figure in it.
Yeah.
And very interesting guy overall. I mean, obviously, since I'm on the podcast, you know that there's legal briefs coming eventually. But Walter Day himself, so he was actually born out in California in 1949 in Oakland, California.
Yeah,
And
up
he could
there.
definitely be described as a man of many hobbies. So prior to Twin Galaxies, Day had a wide variety of jobs. At some point, he sold business cards for a living. He pursued folk music. He tried creative writing. He collected commemorative newspapers, and he was actually a professional ragtime piano player for a bit.
Have you heard any of his music?
No, I have not, but I imagine it's got to be pretty good. Like, playing ragtime just seems immensely difficult.
Yeah, and then definitely not in the same wheelhouse as folk. So
Yeah.
Better or worse than L. Ron Hubbard's music?
Slightly better than the...
Have you heard L. Ron Hubbard's horse
No.
album?
it is
It's something else?
a treat.
Is it better than Russell Crowe's album?
No.
Oh.
Manson's still at the top, right?
I guess
of
technically. By
whack-ass like
default,
that.
yeah.
What about like the Joe Pesci Christmas album?
Oh, he has a rap album.
Yes, he
as well.
does. He
Yeah.
does.
Have you heard Vin Diesel's new music?
No, I didn't know Vin Diesel was even a musician.
Since last year he is.
I prefer that H. John Benjamin album where he doesn't know how to play the piano.
Yeah.
And
Oh
it's
my
just
God.
a jazz album where he doesn't know what he's
That's even better.
All right,
But,
sorry.
yeah. So Walter Day, just prior to founding Twin Galaxies, he was actually working as an oil broker in Houston, where he was working on a book of the who's who of the petroleum industry.
Wow.
So how did this man end up opening an arcade? Such a free spirit.
Yeah, because he wasn't like a big gamer himself, for the right? Or maybe he started
Well-
off with a passion for it.
One day, his co-writer on his Who's Who of the Oil Barons book was fed up with editing, and he actually told him, "I can't take this. I just have to play some Space Invaders." And Day followed
I hear
him
Austin
to the
say that
nearest
while he's
arcade.
editing all the time.
It comes natural. And he was quoted saying, "I went on the road as a traveling salesman, and I would stop and play video games. When I opened up my arcade in 1981, that was just an excuse to play video games."
By the way, Space Invaders sucks, dude.
What? Space Invaders is great. I also think. Wait, what year did Space Invaders? That might have been 1980. Pac-Man was like 80, 81.
Well, had
Pac-Man was very early 80s.
I was like, we covered
Space
Pac-Man.
Invaders was late 70s,
Oh, okay. Yeah,
I
that's
believe.
all. No, I think you might be right.
regardless, Walter Day kind of rules. So someone who enjoys like viewing and analyzing odd hobbies, this guy is just a gold mine.
Cool.
To be called eclectic is kind of an understatement.
It does sound like a man of many different, like,
Like I
so many
pray,
disparate interests.
I pray that his Oil Baron book got published because I want a copy of it so bad. And like it makes total sense
I
to
think it might be a little outdated, but
like Walter Day is just such a free spirit, and like around the time that he actually was making his Oil Barons book, the thing you got to remember is like, why would anybody want to buy a book about oil tycoons in Texas in the 80s? Well,
I feel like your brother would buy that.
he would.
A little show called Dallas.
If you don't know about
The
Dallas,
never-ending fucking.
Who Shot JR?
Was that the? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't know about Dallas, I don't know the average age of your listener, but either ask your parents or you know about it.
Also, to finish your question, yes, that's where Who Shot Mr. Burns came
Yes.
from.
Yeah.
No, I knew that. I was more talking about the It's All a Dream. Was that trope
No.
born in?
That was not Dallas.
Okay, never
that was
mind.
St. Elsewhere, which was a hospital
album.
show.
Okay. All right.
And
I mixed up
and
my
also
soaps.
The second Bob Newhart show. So Bob Newhart had a show called The Bob Newhart Show, and then he had another show called Newhart, and the season finale for Newhart is him waking up with his wife from the Bob Newhart Show, saying that the second show was all a dream.
It's like the ending of
character
G4.
Wow.
from
Yeah.
the first show.
Are you sure I'm older than you? That's it.
Yeah, thank you for explaining that for Randy, because you and I clearly both knew that.
I've seen it parodied
Of course.
enough, and then I think they brought Dallas back at
They did.
one point.
Also, Roseanne was all a dream.
That yeah, but there's the last season where I think she wins the lottery. I've
She
never
wins
I've
the
never
lottery
seen
and her book
Roseanne.
gets published, and then it turns out that her husband actually died.
Died,
And she's like
yeah.
a drunk. Yeah,
Oh my God.
yeah.
Well,
Uh,
so yeah,
it's insane.
he definitely knows how to capitalize on like what's hot in the moment.
Yeah, it sounds like
I mean, you gotta if you're selling commemorative newspapers, right? He
I
actually
never thought about it.
created his own set of trading cards as well, similar to baseball cards, on the most random topics. Would you like to
Collectible oil
take?
tycoon card.
Would you like to take a guess on some of the categories and cards he made?
Musicians. I mean, if he was
Probably.
okay.
I only wrote down like 6 here.
Is one like like moguls? Like is it or just
All right. think about Twin Galaxies.
Yeah.
What would be an easy show in for a trading card series?
It would be professional like players, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think card 001 is?
Billy Mitch. Alexei Pajitnov.
It's Billy Miller. It's Billy Mitchell, but
Oh, he
there's a
went under-
printing error.
Oh, okay. I thought he was like an alias.
No,
situation.
yeah, the note includes it had an original print run of
Wow.
25, but 32 copies were printed. All were hand numbered, and along with another error card. We are considered the rarest and most sought after cards in the entire Walter Day collection.
How much do you think that's fucking worth?
Nothing,
Oh.
but I want it.
I wanted to.
I wanted
well,
to.
that's why when you said like trading cards, I thought that was the obvious guess.
Yeah.
But like they probably have to do something like that now with streamers.
He
and
just
influencers.
kind
I
of
don't
he
know.
just kind of has
for
his
sure.
interest, and he just prints cards and hands them out to people.
That's
like
fun.
He did World War II historical trading cards, where
My dad
one.
would be into that.
Oh, well, your dad would kill
Yeah.
for President Roosevelt's death. Rookie.
Like holographic.
He did one for science fiction, and there's a card for H.G. Wells. He did some for comic book writers and artists,
way.
and he also did one for business card historians.
Man, well, he was very forward thinking because you know what's real hot right now.
Collectibles.
Yeah.
So you might be asking
And
yourself,
cards.
how did Twin Galaxies become so well recognized as the scorekeeping authority?
Yeah, like what kind of catapulted them into that stardom? Like,
Well, when Day heard about a kid beating the world record on Defender with a score of 15.9 million,
Fender.
Day had actually called Defender's creators, Williams Electronics, which I believe make pinball machines,
Hey, all right.
right? Because a local kid in his arcade had just smashed that record by about 9 million points. And
I've played Defender. It's hard. I
It's
I
hard.
didn't even know you could score that high.
he was basically told by the company that they didn't keep track of high scores,
Oh, that's funny.
nor did anybody else for that matter.
But it's like on the cabinet, like
Yeah.
yeah.
But
I'm trying to remember
Right,
like
but we're
some of the
talking
first.
about like a central authority to keep
Right.
all high schools.
you gotta also remember too, when it comes to arcade machines, when you
Reset.
what happens when you reset,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like
That's my favorite episode of Seinfeld.
when he resets the Frogger score.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or no, when he hooks the Frogger machine up to a battery so that it can keep
Yeah.
his
it
high
could keep
score.
his high score. Yeah, so he was basically told that no one kept scores, and he decided he would be the one to keep track. And from there, he started the Twin Galaxies scoreboard, and within 6 months, he said he was getting something like 75 calls per day from people checking the high score, thinking that they were the world champion at something. You got to remember, this
Awesome.
is 1981.
Yeah.
So people were dialing him off the hook, long distance calls to check to see if they were like the best gamer.
I'm sure it probably flocked people to his arcade too. Like,
Yeah.
like,
And-
want to be on the board.
Obviously, the running motif with Walter Day is his ability to be on top of the latest trends out there, right? He sold those commemorative newspapers. He worked as an oil trader at the peak of oil's cultural relevance. And now he was keeping high scores during the golden age of video games, right? And
we're like right before the crash.
right before it.
Well, the
Right.
golden age of arcade.
Arcade
Yeah,
video
yeah,
games,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
I knew what you meant.
Yeah, thank you. Well,
It never got better than those.
never got better.
Yeah.
When did E.T. come out?
Right at the crash. Was that 82 or 83?
So some of those key moments from the golden age, right? You have Space Invaders, 1978.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It was late 70s.
Asteroids, 1979. And then Tron in 82.
And you got your vector graphic stuff in there. Yeah.
Yeah. Twin Galaxies was basically the pinnacle of...
Also, that Tron game is dope.
It is. I really like it.
I love that game.
It was really the pinnacle of a niche hobby for the next 6 months until Life magazine decided to do an article on the burgeoning video game trend.
Oh man,
And this is what really
the
propelled them into
language is like
mainstream.
in that.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, dude. So reporters found Day basically the same way that others had, by being referred to by different electronics and video game companies.
Yeah.
They were like, hey, who should we go to interview about video games? And since he knew all these video game companies...
We need a face. Like,
We need a face.
Yeah.
Talk to Walter Day in Ottumwa, Iowa. Right? But getting Life magazine to write about you isn't that easy. So like during the conversation that Life and Walter Day had, make no mistake, Day wanted them to cover him. Right? And in order to entice them, he had promised that he could get the top players in the country to come to Ottumwa, Iowa for basically Life's photographers to go do a photo shoot.
So I'm just laughing at the idea of like flying out from like New York or LA
Yeah.
or something, just like
And
to Iowa.
you got to remember, too, to put in perspective, at this point, Twin Galaxies was still less than a year old.
It's quick, some quick success.
Yeah. I mean, think about how fast it fizzled as well,
True.
right? And all of this happened on a cold and blustery winter weekend in November of 1982. And to Walter Day's credit, he did make it happen.
Okay.
He actually brings up a good point in a lot of interviews talking about it, because he vividly recalls the extensive process it took to get some of the players to actually come.
How do you entice?
Well, not only did he have to pick up a lot of these guys from the airport and pay for their hotel rooms for the weekend, but apparently, and rightfully so, he spent a lot of time talking to the parents of these kids because they had no idea why a 33-year-old man from Ottumwa wanted to bring their child out to Iowa for a weekend to play in a video game competition. Right? And eventually, though, with the help of Life magazine's editors and photographers, he was able to convince most of the top players across the country to attend.
Yeah.
And for reference, the age of the competitors ranged from 14 to 30.
Was there no cutoff? I guess yet. Nothing
Best
like
player.
that? Okay. Hey, that should be. Hey, also, Life is no longer around. Correct.
Life is not, no.
Okay. couldn't
I didn't
remember.
know that.
Yeah, I think they went under maybe a better part of a decade
I
ago.
think they merged with Time.
Oh, that makes sense. They had the same like red.
Yeah.
Life and Time to make Life and Times.
Yeah, that's what they should have done. Really rebrand. But
Yeah. Some of the people that came, they were local enough to drive, and apparently there were some people there with vanity plates that read like
Lucky them.
VidWiz and Decong.
Oh man.
Yeah, or like really
Some
passionate
hackers' names.
people. Yeah.
This is also the setup for the movie Pixels. PT Dubs.
Is it?
If anybody's
I saw it and I
Yeah.
don't remember.
You fell asleep like 30 minutes into that movie.
And everyone else was
never
forced
fall
to watch
asleep.
it.
I never fall asleep watching movies.
You're very drunk.
And
Probably the only reason you wanted to watch Pixels.
Yeah, I think it was a mathematical formula that I guess I didn't figure out, but
Yeah.
I
So
just remember it because there was a bunch of people sleeping around me, and I was watching Pixels by myself at like 3 a.m, just going, what have I done?
what have you done to deserve that
Yeah,
punishment?
what am I doing with my life?
it was probably your idea.
It was.
So, like, on that Saturday night,
Which
right?
that movie will come up again later,
Oh.
I think,
Mhm.
right? Yeah,
It-
it should.
Like, they really just ripped it out of, like, the storyline.
Totally.
They really did.
And just the most exaggerated
Oh,
fucking...
They cranked it to 15, not
Yeah.
even 11.
I mean, not even to comment on how fucking terrible the movie is, just the portrayal of the Mitchell character and all that.
Yeah.
But sorry, I didn't mean to...
No, you're
cut
good.
you off
You're
there.
good. So during that weekend on that Saturday night, the group was photographed in the street outside the arcade with players hunched over arcade machines as cheerleaders from the local high school shook pom-poms. If you're interested in reading the Life article, you can still find it online
Cool.
from their January 1983 issue with the aforementioned photo, cheerleaders included. A second photo shoot was scheduled originally. However, the logistics behind getting the cabinets in a cornfield proved too unwieldy.
Why didn't they just, use a prop?
Why didn't they just take pictures in the arcade? Why did they move
The lighting
cabinets?
isn't as good, man.
I mean, if you look at the photo, they're in like the center street of Ottumwa, and it's like all the dudes just hanging out on their machines, and then like the local high school cheerleaders in front, and
they wanted to show that nerds could go outside.
oh my god, yeah. And one of those players
easy,
that was
too.
photographed, none other than Billy Mitchell.
Peter Dinklage.
How old was Peter Dinklage? How old is he at this point, you think? I
And be a
guess he's
teenager.
Teenager?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A very gangly teenager with a pretty wispy mustache. Definitely more Weird Al than Burt Reynolds.
He didn't have his
Yeah.
tie yet, though.
No. But again, we'll be talking about him much later in his
Yeah,
involvement
yeah.
with Twin
That's a jump
Galaxies,
ahead.
right? But not only was this Life photo shoot the first time a major outlet covered video games, but it was also the first documented incidents of deception. Something that we will definitely speak more about.
Ah, it didn't take long.
No. At this photo shoot, there was a teenager. His name was Steve Sanders, a.k.a. the original King of Kong. He was just a young kid from Clinton, Missouri, who also happened to be the world record holder of Donkey Kong at the time. You could see him in the photo in front of the DK cabinet with a bio that reads, Steve Sanders, 18, Clinton, pinned 3,165,000 Donkey Kong tails.
God, bring these types of articles back.
Can you spot the issue with that though? And no, I'm not talking about the fact that whoever wrote tails at the end of the bio never even bothered to check that Donkey Kong is an ape and not a fucking donkey.
Yeah,
mean-
he doesn't have a tail.
3,165,000 is more than the score from the movie, isn't it?
Yeah.
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 It's like the game is not.
Yep.
Yeah.
The maximum possible score for Donkey Kong is 1.3 million.
Right. That's what.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was like 1.5 or something, but I knew it was
'Cause
not 3
Because I
million.
remember, isn't a big part of the movie King of Kong like the race to 1,000,000?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting over 1 million.
So you're
Yeah.
saying something's fishy.
The current world record is 1.26 million, which, funnily enough, was set just close to a year ago by a guy named Robbie Lakeman from Concord, New Hampshire. So,
And he's been at it for a while, I think, too.
yeah, I mean, you got to be. Like, Robbie, if you're listening to this, congrats.
Yeah.
That is a huge accomplishment. And to give some additional context to this, the Donkey Kong record is now in the realm of, like, please bless me, RNGesus.
Oh, yeah. Okay, you were talking to me
Yeah.
about this.
Right, because 1.3 is like a theoretical
Yes.
maximum, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is
Yeah.
why there was like some sort of assistance in figuring that out. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, not only in the past 10 years, we've really come far in being able to not only theorize, but also simulate potential high scores for games. So back in like
That's
2010,
interesting.
the highest possible score was around 1.15 million. And more recently, we've seen TAS emulation with scores of over 2 million being possible. But you need frame by frame like manipulation and analysis.
I mean, that's definitely something that like it makes a task like so fascinating sometimes to
to
For
watch.
those of you
just
listening that don't know, that is tool-assisted speed run.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, when I said
Basically-
assistance, I meant like computer.
Yeah, that's basically when a computer plays the game
Yep. Yeah.
and plays it perfectly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
They get the perfect random number generator, maximum score. Like
Yeah,
it's
it,
just
it
insane.
calculates like pretty much what an ideal route would be, and
Yeah.
they have it for everything, Mario and
Yep. It's crazy.
Pac-Man.
If you ever want to check out, just like see a game utterly dismantled, just watch a TAS.
yeah.
But yeah. But what's certain now is that Steve Sanders was clearly lying about his record. And at the event itself, he played a few games where he couldn't break 200,000 points. It was suspiciously a bad day for someone who had claimed to have broken more than 10 times that amount.
Yeah, that seems like a pretty bold lie. Oh, I mean, the game was only out for at this point a couple of years.
Yeah.
Like,
But what makes this different is that unlike other cases where it has taken 10, 15, 20 years in technical analysis to disprove some records, it actually didn't take long for Steve to come clean.
okay.
After he returned home to Kansas City from that event, thinking about what had happened, he actually wrote a letter to Walter Day as well as the other Donkey Kong players he knew and competed against. And he has gone on to say, the way it started was that my Donkey Kong high score was beaten maybe by 450,000 points or something. And rather than say, oh, okay, congratulations, and try to get the score back, I just said I scored more than that. And that score, the one I
Kept
invented,
multiplying.
yeah, it got into the Guinness Book of World Records.
And it's funny because it doesn't sound like he really planned for it to get out there that way.
No.
Yeah, like it seemed you're describing
It
it
was
as
like
kind of
a-
spur of the moment. Like,
It's like a white lie that got out of control.
yeah. I mean, good on him for, I guess.
It was just like, somebody
Coming
beat your
out.
score. He's like, I beat that. I just didn't tell you. And then it spiraled.
Just spirals out. Yeah. And in retrospect, I think he is quoted with saying, in retrospect, I think a lot of the guys were lying.
Oh, well.
And
We were young and restless.
we're young teens. Walter Day has had this to say in the matter. I think a lot of players were genuinely impressed that Steve had the sand to fess up and apologize and to go on with his life. I think if they weren't impressed, they had their own egos in the way, or they weren't mature enough to realize what an amazing thing he'd done, to own up to it. I've always admired Steve for what he did in the face of scorn, and no matter what he's done, the truth is he could still play better than just about anyone else.
Sure. And it's not like he was profiting on it for like 20 years.
No.
It was like,
And I don't want to harp on this
like
too
that.
much because, to be honest, it doesn't really mean much in the grand scheme of things. Like Steve Sanders eventually.
it's just interesting,
left
like
playing
that this
video
started this
games.
early, though. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like
Like from the inception.
questionable scores.
Yeah. Like
And Donkey Kong.
he eventually left playing video games. He actually became an attorney and a damn fucking good one at that. He started his own law firm and out in like Kansas City. He's married, has 5 kids, and from what I read, as recent as 2015, he's actually still really good friends with Billy Mitchell.
No shit.
And after filming The King of Kong in 2006, Billy Mitchell convinced Sanders to give gaming another shot. So Sanders fired up Joust and set the world record for a doubles game.
Damn,
And-
still got it.
Yeah. 3 years later, in 2009, Mitchell challenged Sanders again, betting him that he could push the score higher and wagering either $1,000 or a pizza. Sanders eventually went on to beat his own Joust record in 2011 alongside his 17-year-old son, and Sanders chose the pizza. Yeah.
What kind of pizza?
The Kansas City.
Kansas City pizza.
Uh,
Yeah. No offense to anybody. If we have any listeners in Kansas City,
I just imagine.
we're just pizza snubs.
Yeah.
I love that he came back though and did it legit.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, nothing suspicious about it, any of those, right? Like he just like came in and
It's just a wholesome
fucking
moment.
did it. Yeah,
And
that's great.
that father-son duo then broke the record again in November of 2012 and have vowed to continue to play until they break 1 million points.
Wow.
Yeah. Like, have you guys ever played Joust?
Yeah. I've only ever played it multiplayer.
It's hard
which-
as fuck.
yeah,
Yes. It is absolutely fucking insane.
It is. I think Balloon Fight is probably a bit more accessible than
Yeah.
Joust, but similar idea.
Almost all the records are held by this one guy named Lonnie McDonald, who Steve actually has some records with. So you have like the singles and doubles category. There's a few variations, which is like, do you get an extra life or is it just you get the 3 lives, right? And Lonnie and Steve hold the marathon doubles record,
Oh, that's cool. They did it together.
Which is set at a nice 40 million points.
Jesus.
The,
Like those numbers got to be scrolling off the screen.
yeah. And the marathon singles record, it's held by a guy named John P. McAllister. That was set back in 2018, and it's a fucking staggering 107 million. Do you know how long it took him to break that record?
I mean, I'm gonna say like in hours or years.
In hours, continuously.
I mean, are we breaching our 10,000 hour rule? Or
No. I'm saying to get 103,
Oh,
107 million.
you mean in one
how
sitting?
long was?
Okay,
how
I thought
long
you were
was
talking about
the
his
one,
training.
How long was the one run?
Yeah.
Is what he's saying.
Fuck,
Yeah.
8 hours
Higher.
higher. You got to be so fatigued at that point. Just like 12,
Double it.
24 straight
Double it.
out. What? What is he, a robot?
I said double it.
Wait, like legitimately 48 hours?
Add 5.
What the fuck?
53 hours and 51 minutes.
Almost 54. Yeah.
Was he on 80s coke? Like, how?
You could watch. You could.
So strung
You
out
could watch
at
the videotapes.
I believe it. It's just that is like that's StarCraft level of people that die in cafes.
That's
like,
2 days straight plus some to beat one record.
God, were his hands just permanently fixed like this afterwards?
I have
Like,
no idea how he did
And
it.
then he was blind. And
Like, it's absolutely insane.
you ever stare at those old screens
Yeah.
for too long? They'll you're like.
I think at some point it's just got to be muscle memory.
Yeah, he was just on autopilot.
Yeah.
And the rest of the bodily functions were just kind of.
You just go into like hibernation mode, right?
Yeah.
And it's just got the timing muscle memory down. But yeah, back to Twin Galaxies.
Mm-hmm.
So 6 months after the life photo shoot in the summer of 1983, things were in full swing. At this point, Walter Day had become the official supplier of verified video game scores for the Guinness World Records. It was the first time that Guinness had ever recognized video games as a valid category, citing the problems they faced with different versions of the games, the myriad of bugs, and the inability to verify video game claims through the mail.
I wonder if pinball had this problem, or if that was around the same time that they started documenting that as well. Yeah.
Yeah. This was definitely something that Walter Day and his company, Twin Galaxies, were uniquely equipped to provide.
So this is where the tapes came from, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
They were able to provide Guinness with verified scores that were adjudicated in person during a series of annual contests held each summer.
They were dedicated. They had witnesses too, and stuff like that.
You know how
I
you
remember.
know how with Guinness, if you want to get a record verified, you used to have someone present to witness it, right?
Yeah, they would send a representative or two, or something. Because it would be especially for tests, they would have designated breaks, and also they would check hardware.
Yeah.
And
So did you guys used to watch the Guinness show back in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
was that on Spike maybe?
No.
Or no, that was
it was
Ripley's
on-
Believe It or Not. I'm
It
sorry.
was on network. It was on network TV.
Oh, it was on network TV. Okay.
I think it was
Maybe I
ABC
missed.
or something.
So, yeah, you guys are both familiar with the premise. You'd have the judge there, aka the adjudicator there, who would witness you.
Did they have to perform it live? For
yeah.
the shoot. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I
You ever
missed the
wonder? Well, you got to put it together. You ever wonder why Twin Galaxies had the same policy?
No, is that?
Think about it. If you want to get a record with Guinness Book of World Records, right?
Yeah.
You need to do it. You could do it live in front of a judge and automatically receive
Yeah.
the
yes.
record, and that is Twin Galaxies policy.
Okay, so I mean, people would just kind of trek out there to
Yeah.
his spot, and then
Yep.
they could monitor it themselves and just sort of forward that information to Guinness, cut out the
Yeah. Pretty much.
That makes sense. That's because I thought this was still, when it was I guess Iron Galaxies would be the one reviewing tapes, and then I thought they might copy them and pass that along to
Yeah.
Guinness. but-
The tapes were a way to get around having an adjudicator there,
okay.
but the tapes were there.
I mean, you probably couldn't get direct feedback then. It was just like a VHS.
No,
camera
it had to
pointed
be.
at the-
It had to not be a direct feed. Direct feeds disqualified it.
Oh,
It had to be a videotape of you performing it.
Okay, so they could identify that
Yes,
was
that
indeed
was
the
you.
person.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
We've come a long way in technology since then.
Yeah, I'm looking at this a little bit through like a modern lens of how this stuff is handled.
But the only way, if you think about it, like like having the videotape would serve as essentially the judge's eyes, where he would be able to see you performing it, not like taking breaks or doing whatever. And
Fuck him with shit.
yeah. And around the same time as getting involved with Guinness, Walter, Billy, and 14 other Twin Galaxies high scorers were laying the foundation for what would eventually become esports.
Yes, which I think this came up a little bit on the StarCraft episode that we did, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And by esports, I mean the circus had actually come to town. Legitimately. I'm talking about a company called Electronic Circus.
Oh, wow.
They assembled the first traveling professional troupe of video game players, starring Walter Day at the helm, serving as the ringmaster and his top players as the attraction.
That's such an outdated, like, name and brand for this whole thing.
100%. The plan was to tour 40 cities across North America where the public could attend, play the games, watch the champions, and even challenge the champions if they wanted to. If any of the challengers won, they would earn the right to replace the current player for the rest of the tour.
So they're taking this Iowa show on the road, huh?
Yep.
Yeah.
And this was one of the first instances where a gamer could call himself a professional, as
You're
all the
getting paid for
players
it.
were under contract.
Yeah.
While not a typical contract akin to something like a pro athlete, it did pay the players for their appearances. It had some stipulations about a midnight curfew. It forbade drugs and alcohol.
Yes.
Drew rigid guidelines in their conduct around the inevitable groupies. It's just so wholesome.
Still, it's generous that they're getting like some cash, like for the
They're like actually getting paid to appear.
Yeah, I think we talked about this in the G4 one a bit. Is that went away for like a decade or so? It's like,
And so the first event they had was in Boston, where they rented out this huge convention hall and set up huge rows of arcade cabinets. The heart was in the right place, and I can appreciate that, but you could probably guess how it went.
poorly.
They never made it to the second city.
Bummer.
I know. And during this time, Steve Sanders was the team captain for the team, but only because he was the oldest.
Okay.
He was super invested in this and really wanted to make it work.
And when you say oldest,
I mean, like, he had to be like 23.
Okay, so that has stayed
22.
consistent in the world of esports.
Yeah.
I suppose.
And after the first show in Boston, he returned to the attic above Twin Galaxies, home of the rotating cast of players trying to figure out their next move. And I had a quote that I really wanted to keep in here, where it's Steve Sanders talking about it. And he says, "I still remember waking up in this filthy room at 6 a.m. one morning. The carpets were all shaggy. There were cockroaches running around. It was like God spoke to me at that moment and said, 'What are you doing here? You're wasting your life. Go back to school and make something of yourself.'" Jesus. And that was the end of me trying to be a professional gamer.
The first part of that had some Black Flag energy, just like
I know. Like the second part was like,
that's
clearly like an Ace Attorney, like reflecting upon it,
right?
Like saying like, "Fucking make something in your life. Stop playing video games for a living." And then you're like, "You're right." And then he just leaves, goes to law school, like the anti-dream. And but yeah, in the wake of the Electronic Circus, they did organize the U.S. national video games team. And unlike the Electronic Circus, the U.S. national team was more focused on trying to make headlines as opposed to putting on a show or an act.
Right, yeah.
They would travel around the U.S. promoting video games through some pretty creative ways.
Spreading awareness.
Oh. Sadly,
the mainstream.
That awareness and those adventures, they read more like a comedy of errors than a jaw-dropping epic.
What happened?
Car breakdowns, malfunctions, you name it, it happened. They also did some neat stuff.
Okay.
Right? They visited the Italian and Japanese embassies in Washington, D.C. to issue challenges for an international video game championship. And what might sound like the most surprising event, Walter and Billy Mitchell traveled around the country debunking bogus scores that players would claim.
No shit.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say... there's a joke to be made there, or I guess an irony to point out, but...
Yeah. 100%, which we will definitely cover.
Wow.
But by January of 1984, Mitchell was named the Player of the Year at an event in Ottumwa at Twin Galaxies, but sadly, it was the curtain call for the arcade. Like many other arcades that would shutter in 1983 with the video game crash, Twin Galaxies closed its doors in March of 1984.
Oof. That hit them like...
Real quick.
Yeah.
In a span of 2 years, right? But after Twin Galaxy
Some
closes...
ups and downs.
Yeah, you're talking about a roller coaster ride. But after Twin Galaxy closed, Walter Day continued to work on with Guinness Book of World Records as an assistant editor to submit scores from the Twin Galaxies National Scoreboard to be published in subsequent printings of the book. Essentially, the brick-and-mortar retail store and arcade that was Twin Galaxies was closed, but Walter continued to utilize the brand and leverage the brand image with his connections at Guinness to do more in the future. And over those next 4 years...
It's the right move.
It is. Yeah. It really is. It's like he realized that the storefront was gone, but he could take the brand image and the brand
It's
name.
worth something, you know. There's a community.
100%. And over those next 4 years, Day sponsored a ton of different challenges and contests under the Twin Galaxies name, using the U.S. National Video Game Team banner and an association with Guinness Book of World Records. That might sound confusing, but imagine an event that was called Twin Galaxies presents the U.S. National Video Game Team attempts to break Guinness Book of World Records of Miss Pac-Man High Score live.
Brought to you by Pringles.
Sponsored by.
Check out our Miss Pac-Man episode.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Walter Day, he did organize the Canada-U.S. Video Game Team Conference in late 1984. In April of 1985, the Red Cross Video Game Team invited President Ronald Reagan to join the team.
Hell yeah, dude.
Can you imagine?
You mean the Call of Duty character?
Yeah. Ronnie Reagan behind the paddles. Dude, let's be real. He'd be the king of Tapper, right?
All right, Austin, I got some Photoshop ideas for
I'm already...
this.
It's just cooking up, huh?
Things are already churning up in the old...
I really hope it's Ronald Reagan playing a game called like Reaganomics.
Yeah, you're getting closer.
Yes. They also held...
What Reagan say?
oh my god.
I'll just tell you now. It's gonna be Ronald Reagan. It's gonna be the picture of Twin Galaxies, but Ronald Reagan's gonna be photoshopped on top of the cheerleaders.
I can't wait.
Can it be the Infinite Warfare or no? Which one? Oh, Cold War. Sorry. I couldn't remember which COD it was.
Everyone knows the best COD is when you get to play as JFK.
Oh, that's Black Ops 1?
Yeah.
5 It's
and Nixon.
and Castro?
And McNamara.
McNamara.
Yeah, McNamara's the one I always forget.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's so good.
Mm-hmm.
But the best event he held was, hands down, the first annual Iron Man contest in 1985.
Like the Iron Man? Like the physical?
No.
Okay.
No.
Sorry.
After this Iron Man contest, the Guinness Book of World Records officially authorized the video game team to organize contests, the National Video Game Team to then organize contests that they
you
could
do
get.
all the
Yeah, you
the
do
work.
all the legwork. We'll put the records in. In hindsight, though, I can tell you that this Iron Man contest was literally impossible. So,
oh yeah, now I need to know the rules.
So in July of 1985, they held the first annual Iron Man contest where contestants would play their games without pause for as long as they could. Anyone who could...
Oh, that's like the Rock Band Bladder of Steel achievement.
People dying.
No, nobody died, but
nobody died here
bladders
either.
were. Okay, good.
But
I mean, hey, they're sticking true to its name. I feel less stupid about invoking the like where it comes from.
Right?
Yeah, the Iron Man. So without pausing, huh?
Without pausing.
I mean, not a lot of these arcade games probably even had a pause.
No, they did not.
But they just couldn't take any
Any
breaks of any
No
kind.
breaks, no sleeping. They had to play their games for 100 hours.
What?
And anyone who reached
That's
that 100
torture.
hour mark,
That's like
it's literally
interrogation
impossible.
tactics.
But if you did it, you got $10,000.
It's impossible unless you're tool assisted. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You mean medically assisted speed run?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the 80s after all.
Who was the last person standing? Like,
Oh, actually,
He'll get there.
we'll get
okay,
there.
all right.
It actually Oh,
They were built in a government lab.
Don't worry, I'm going to hit you with it, and then you're going to get the call back too. So
Bring it around.
this prize was afforded by the Sports Achievement Association. Adjusted for inflation, it's equivalent of about getting 25 grand.
All right, and they delivered. I got that.
Well, if anybody made it, right? They would have.
Well-
if you made the 100-hour mark.
Right. Yeah. So it's not. It wasn't elimination anyway. It was you had to
You just had to play it nonstop.
100 hours.
You would get the world record.
To put that into perspective for those of you who are bad at math, that's about a little over 4 days. Because 4 days is 96 hours.
4 days of doing anything.
Why
I
did
wanna
they think
die.
that was like a?
It wasn't.
achievable? Like what? What's the longest that anyone's ever stayed awake? Like
Oh God,
on record.
longer than
Longer than
100
days.
hours.
right,
Yeah.
but you start to go pretty
Oh yeah, you
fucking
go.
mad.
batshit
like,
insane.
Yeah, like
you start to like hallucinate after.
I
Like
tell you,
72.
the longest I've ever stayed awake was 72 hours.
you beat me. But
And,
you do get pretty delirious at that
You
point.
do start seeing shit.
Yeah.
You get the halos around lights, and then stuff out of the corner of your eye.
Stuff moves out of the corner of
Yeah,
your eye. It's very freaky.
audio kind of
Yep.
hallucinations as well.
Who's there?
You know, perfect shape of body and mind to play fucking already
games.
brutally hard
Games designed to eat quarters.
Yeah.
Well, you want to hear a fun fact about this Sports Achievement Association that was essentially funding the prize money?
Yeah.
Hit me with it.
They weren't even incorporated. It wasn't even an association at all. It was owned by a California businessman, and its entire purpose was to provide risk reimbursement coverage on special promo sporting events, like hole-in-one contests at golf courses, fishing derbies, bingo games, and like people getting
What?
perfect bowling games like 300s in tournaments.
All right.
How do I know this?
You just look it up and you're like,
He covered a super bet at the Chicago Horse Racing Track in 1988, where a $1 buy-in and a ridiculous amount of parlay bets can get you a $50,000 payout. There were 3 winners, and he never paid the racetrack, so they took him to court.
and that's $50,000 in '80s money.
Yeah, that's a lot of money. Made money. They took him to court. His
One
lawyer
race.
just didn't even respond. Summary judgment was entered, and he owed them about $136,000 plus costs. So,
What a chump.
going into this, there was 0% chance I wasn't going to bring up court filings. It's the only way I know. But back to the national video game team escapades. This Iron Man event, this 100-hour marathon, one player was eliminated after 39 hours when sweat and oil from his hands caused a joystick malfunction.
I like you said only 39 hours.
Only.
It's
Dude, another dude played Cuba in a recliner for 50 hours before collapsing from exhaustion.
he was in a recliner.
How I
guess,
imagine
yeah,
falling
you stand
asleep.
up. Yeah.
He fell asleep. The winner apparently played Joust for more than 67 hours on the last day and resorted to blasting himself in the face with Freon to stay awake. Freon.
Is that safe?
No.
It doesn't sound
It
safe.
is a hydrochlorofluorocarbon. They are banned by the EPA. It's a refrigerant.
Yeah.
That is the most 80s thing you
yeah.
can do.
Yeah.
Do you know what happens if you inhale it?
Does it make you tolerate Joust for more than...
Apparently it provides a mild buzz similar to drinking alcohol.
Hey, I know about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, except alcohol does make you sleepy.
Yeah, I was going to say
it's
alcohol's
not
a depressant.
But it starts out as a
God,
as a
that's
stimulant,
very
You're drunk and awake? Sounds great.
right?
Not for me. I don't
personally-
get the stimulant. Just get the depressant.
Just the depressive part.
Yeah.
I'm way more surprised that nobody was like brown bagging like lacquer or something like that in the back room, or just leaving a can of like commercial paint thinner in front of the cabinet.
And remember, this was a time before energy drinks.
Yeah,
I mean,
you're
I
gonna
guess
blast
Joel
yourself in the face
was around,
with Freon.
Yeah.
Plus, you kill all the ozone in your body.
Yeah. All of the ozone in your body.
God, what do you think this fucking like shady scene just looked like after multiple days?
I just imagine just like Mad Max and he's just
zombied out.
spraying himself in the mouth with
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the area like
like, witness me.
Shiny and chrome.
back to puber.
But guess what? A new record was set. It was done by a guy named James Volant.
And he proceeded to die minutes later.
Can you guess what the game was for?
Call back.
Well, I mean, we're not in Donkey Kong territory yet.
What game took 53 hours to beat
Wait,
from earlier?
you can cut out my long pauses.
Yeah,
Nope, leaving it all.
Nope.
in there.
it's all in there. Joust.
Well, okay. Well, we were just talking about
Yeah,
Joust. I didn't
yeah,
know
yeah.
it was like I
Yeah,
thought
that
you-
was the one that took 53 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. You
But-
you were tricking me.
Yeah, I was
a little bit.
I
'cause
was
I
100%.
thought we were the one I wasn't gonna say was Joust because
Right?
there's so much Joust.
You know what the record was? 107,216,000. The record that was beat that took 53 hours
Yeah.
was for 107,600,000.
Hmm.
And that was like 20 years later. Right? So,
Presumably when I got some
Yeah, that was
sleep.
2018, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, yeah, his
I
54
apologize.
hours.
I thought this was like gonna tie
No.
into like
No.
out of nowhere fucking
Remember earlier when I was mentioning it?
super sprint
His
comes into
record
play.
took 54 hours or close to complete.
Yeah.
The record he was beating was the one that was set at this event.
Too much Joust.
Yeah. But if you want to throw more fuel into the speculation fire, the leaderboard for Joust marathon scores, it actually has 17 scores submitted, and 12 out of the 17 of them are all from the same time period, 1983 to 1985.
There were probably multiple people doing like those kind of endurance records for arcade games, like because they're basically endless. You know, like I genuinely wonder. I don't know. I don't know what made Joust get so much attention. I mean, maybe
If you
Because you could
read down
cop it.
this record list, like it's basically
nothing against Joust.
no, nothing against Joust. It's basically this guy set this record, right, in 1983 for, 101 million points. And then this guy, James, comes out in 85, beats it with 107 million. And then people are just kind of scrambling after that to try and even catch up to him, right? And then
Not just giving up.
not just giving up, right? And it is noted that on the website that this record from 1985, from 83 is it is contested and disputed because
In what
apparently
way?
there was some electronic malfunctions in the event which caused him to have to restart. So instead
Someone
of
spilled coffee on the.
yeah,
So wait, did they just?
he blasted Frey on the control panel. Of course.
Did they just like add both the scores then? Like they restarted and
Yep.
then continued from where he left off?
They just added the scores together, which gave him the 107 million. And all I'm saying
Maybe
is,
he got a break.
if you look at some of these old scores, I think a lot of them are pretty loose. I'm not saying that any of these guys or gals are bad people, nor am I saying that they're lying, but it just seems
Sure.
super odd that I think that the way they handled it back then just would not fly today.
No.
And
And some of this evidence is probably just evaporated to the
Yeah.
ether at this point.
Like, with our understanding of technology and capture cards and Twitch, it just wouldn't fly,
yeah.
right? And after this Iron Man event,
They didn't do that again after, did they? Or is that the?
no, this is the first and last Iron Man contest.
All right.
This is actually the start where we have Billy's hiatus.
Reagan didn't play though.
No. After submitting a high score for Burger Time, Billy spent the next 10 to
Burger
15
Time.
great game.
Yeah.
Billy spent the next 10 to 15 years away from the arcade. Instead, he turned towards building his family's business, successfully building Ricky's into a small chain and popularizing its hot sauce business.
Yes. There it is. So this is where that like was, huh? I didn't
Yeah.
know it was so early.
And if you think about it, it makes sense too. Back in the early 80s, you had arcade fever. Twin Galaxies was at its peak. Walter Day got this sudden popularity with a Life magazine article, links him up with Guinness. He's submitting records, and then the bust happens and he closes doors, right?
I mean, and the writing's on the wall with the crash too, so that was still probably a pretty
Yeah.
That was a good path to take.
If you look at the timeline for Donkey Kong World Records, you'll see that the first record as November 7th, 1982, belonging to Billy Mitchell. The next record after that is in August 17th, 2000.
That took some time.
It looks like video game records were just non-fucking existent for 15 years. If you look at the Guinness record keeping.
Which is weird because there's still plenty of score-based arcade games that were really popular in the 90s. And
Yeah. Well, without Walter Day there submitting scores, it really shows that I don't think this was like a super serious thing for Guinness
okay.
at the time.
But it sounds like they needed a figurehead, though, to really run it all and keep trying. Like nobody was stepping up to fill that void.
Yeah.
Huh.
And as the 90s really kept rolling, Twin Galaxies, they did resurface at some point within the 96 to 97 range. And by 1998 was online with a forum. Apparently a fairly cheesy forum, but a forum nonetheless.
Well, we're in the connected era now.
Yeah. Now everyone
How
has...
cheesy of a forum.
Very cheesy. It wasn't until 1999 when, according to an article, Mitchell caught wind that a group of Canadians were closing in on obtaining the perfect Pac-Man score.
Oh, but he's got to defend his title for America.
For America. Ultimately, on July 3rd that year, Mitchell was the first officially recognized perfect score for Pac-Man.
And this is where the world-famous 256
By who, you ask?
kill screen.
None other than Guinness Book of World Records. It's this achievement that prompted Namco to declare Billy Mitchell the video game player of the century, fly him out to Japan, brought him on stage at the Tokyo
title.
Game Show, presented him with an award, and offered him a chance to meet the creators of Pac-Man,
That footage has got to be out there.
Toru Iwatani, and Namco founder Masayaya Nakamura.
Yes, which they came up on, not just the Pac-Man episode, but our Tetris one as well.
Also, Toro Iwatani is in Pixels.
Oh my
He
God!
has a cameo.
He gets his hand like bitten off.
As
doesn't he?
himself, as the father of Pac-Man, he has to. Yeah, he has to.
He gets his hand bitten off?
By
Pac-Man. By Pac-Man. He has to. They fly
I
in.
know it sounds like we're making
They
this
fly
up.
in the father of Pac-Man in order to tame his son. It's a good movie, dude.
I can't wait to watch it.
Oh yeah,
Ugh.
it's. I don't want to speak too soon, but we may also do a commentary of that in the future.
I hope so.
I'll stay awake this time, I swear.
There's a lot to be said about like this perfect Pac-Man score.
No, the kill screen is like an iconic moment in gaming. It's historic.
It is.
And it's a technical. I mean, from a technical, it's a bit, like the 256.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
But there's a lot more
Just
to
nobody
it.
got to it.
It's a buffer overflow.
Right.
It is.
Yes.
There's a lot more to it though, because there's a lot of accounts out there that he wasn't the first person to hit the kill screen.
Was the first people knew about or understood what it
He was the first person to be validated by Guinness Book of World Records as hitting the kill screen.
I see. I knew that, but I think he's also been on record kind of arguing that he was the first.
So
I mean, that's hearsay. I mean, it's his word over.
yeah,
But if there was no documented proof
wasn't
before
there
that,
some like fuckery going on
yeah,
with that,
around what constitutes a perfect
Yes.
game?
I think so.
Yep. So there's a lot of semantics involved, right? You got to look at two big things. One, who validated his score, and then what constituted a perfect game.
Yeah, because it's like there are the stages. I mean, that glitch kind of or bug, whatever you call it, happens when you hit the 257th stage, right?
Yeah.
It's not a score based.
No, it is.
Oh, is it?
It is.
Yeah.
So the big thing is the perfect score was set by Twin Galaxies as 3,333,360 points. That is what constitutes a perfect game of Pac-Man. However, on a Pac-Man arcade board, I hope I don't get this wrong, the PCB board, right?
Yep.
Like the actual cabinet, there is a switch. That switch allows you to start with either 3 lives or 5 lives.
Do you
If
get
you
more or less points by starting?
Every extra life is extra points at the end of the game.
Right, along with time. I think your time allotted is also. Is it in Pac-Man 1?
I don't believe so. No.
No.
Okay, so then maybe I'm thinking of Miss Pac-Man. I was trying to remember. They added like bonuses later. I mean, all the modern ones do, the way they're represented in like Championship and 99 and everything. So if you start with 3 lives or start with 5 lives, if you make it there in 3, you will inherently, like, you will have more points than if somebody made it there in 5.
No.
No, opposite.
Opposite.
Because you get
sorry.
bonus points
I
at the
misunderstood.
end of the game for the
extra lives you have.
lives you have.
Can
and
you
a
earn you can earn lives in Pac-Man 1 as well.
Yes.
So I don't know what the max is that you can have, but you're
basically
you're already starting off with 2 extra.
a perfect game of Pac-Man implies that you never get hit.
Right.
So the more lives you start with, the more points you end with, essentially.
I wonder. I guess that switch is probably just in there to make the game more like for a casual player. Like,
Well, it depends. It's how many quarters you want to squeeze out of people, I guess.
so mine. Like, I always remember Pac-Man being 3 lives, so it goes to show what the bulk of them were probably set to.
Yep.
Or how many people even really knew about it.
That you could switch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a third setting too. I think it was called +1. That was like it determined how many extra lives you would get. But regardless,
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to get off
no,
this
no,
whole
no.
tangent, but
So when you look at
Interesting.
the perfect game of Pac-Man and you have it on the 3 setting, right? There are people who there are claims out there that there are people who have hit the kill screen on 3 lives, right? Because that was the officially accepted Pac-Man record up until Billy hit it on the 5 lives. Then that became, from some accounts, overnight the de facto perfect Pac-Man score.
I mean, he had to have known the tournament rules. I mean, like, at least for competitive Pac-Man play, it was probably everybody was doing 3 until
They made the rules.
if he was a part of that board, then
Yeah.
was it a loophole then rather than a?
In my opinion, it was more like there were people out there who were really good at Pac-Man who probably hit the kill screen on 3 lives, right?
Okay. I mean, he's undeniably good at Pac-Man.
He is.
but
He's a really good Pac-Man player.
but maybe that title isn't
but
100%
to be the
definitive.
first person to get a perfect game of Pac-Man.
Yeah.
You got to remember, like, Walter Day is the king of attracting media attention to things, right? Like,
No. Okay. Now
when you say, okay, I got
what you're
a
hinting at.
3,333,280 score on 3+ Pac-Man, that means nothing to people. But if you say, I got the
But-
perfect game of Pac-Man and I was the first person to do it,
even people who
because
don't
he
play
was-
video games or Pac-Man,
yeah, they're like, holy shit,
Yeah.
perfect game of Pac-Man? Because he was the first person to get a record in the 5 life variant,
yeah.
right? And when the people who are judging that are Walter Day, who you've been friends with,
Then that's the 2-step process.
Yeah.
It's done.
right? So it's like there's a lot of debate about that, and like a lot of debate about, like, you know, was the system
Just like the eyebrow
essentially
raising
rigged in
nature
his
of it.
favor?
I mean, it
Yeah,
sounds like a
like,
loophole to
it's-
me, but you could say that. Yeah,
It's more of a news.
It's rigged in his
Essentially, it's
favor.
more of a news story for Billy Mitchell to get the first
Yes.
kill screen perfect game than it is for a bunch of random people nobody's ever heard of in Canada.
Yep.
totally.
So, like, it was kind of, they changed the rules to make it a news story so that
Yes.
Billy could do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because he already had like some credibility and popularity within the video game realm.
Sure.
Right.
You know, he held other
but
records.
this was definitely where
He held Burger Time. He held Donkey Kong. He held a lot of classic.
They don't have the
video
same
games
ring
as Pac-Man.
as a perfect game.
As a
of
perfect
Pac-Man.
game of Pac-Man.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's no perfect game of Donkey Kong.
Yeah. So this is when he became like a, you know, an iconic figurehead of.
Yeah, I would say that, like, I mean, he
For
wasn't
better
like
or
clout
worse.
chasing. I don't think a lot of people really cared at the time in terms of mainstream media. But
Yeah,
like,
maybe
to
it's
the-
more
to
in
the-
retrospect. It's like
to the niche hobby enthusiast at the time. Yeah, it's a pretty big deal. You know?
Yeah, I'm because I've seen photos from that like
Yeah.
where he's like signing autographs and
Yeah.
shit. You know.
Yeah. I mean, what really propelled him into the mainstream limelight was definitely King of Kong.
Yeah, that's why I had that in the open.
But like,
I mean, that's how I. You know,
I obviously don't know the inner workings of Twin Galaxies at the time, or what happened, or how they decided this, or what happened, because there's also, like I said, a ton of conflicting accounts that, like, no, he was just like the first person to get it. There are people who are saying no, it was rigged from the start. There are people who are saying like Walter Day was in on it. It was to help promote the resurgence of Twin Galaxies.
I mean, I feel like they would have if somebody else raised their hand and said that they did it prior, then they would ask for proof to surface, right? I mean,
but the thing about it is, like, the
and not to script like that could
Yeah.
have totally happened. Like, you know,
there have been
like
I don't want to
people have been
specifically
playing
mention
Pac-Man
it.
religiously for
There was definitely a former employee of Twin Galaxies who came out and like really just like, I mean, he kind of came off as a few screws loose because he was very adamant that in terms of his vitriol and hatred towards Billy Mitchell, that he put out a lot of these like amateur documentaries like I'm going to expose him,
I mean,
etc.
he is kind of a heel, but
This guy was claiming that there was like a dude in Florida who had the perfect game of Pac-Man and he submitted the tape, but like it got lost in the mail magically. That like Twin Galaxies did like this, a lot of like tinfoil hat conspiracy. Like they're hiding the tapes.
The enemies early on.
Yeah,
and I sorry, I should clarify. When I say heel, I just mean sometimes he has a confident demeanor.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. He's like,
competitive, and
he is. He's a competitive person. I don't think you get into playing video games like that unless you like are super competitive.
I mean, you can back it up.
Yeah, and to his credit too. I mean, it's not like he was actively seeking the limelight, like, and just trying to rocket towards it. I mean, he took like 10, 15 years off.
Overly aggressive or anything. I just
got married. Like,
he lived a life.
Yeah, like turned his family business into a successful business, and came back and did it. And like, it's interesting to say the least. Like, I'm excited to talk more about Billy Mitchell.
Yeah,
because like I kind of have a very neutral opinion on the whole situation in the sense that like I can totally see where he's coming from, which hopefully I'll be able to explain it.
It's a conversation to really dissect just how the media painted him, and
like because he has the confident demeanor, it's like the tallest tree gets the most wind, and it's like it's easy to paint him that way. And it makes people feel good when they're taking down the evil guy, but at the end of the day, I think he's just a dude from Florida. Like he seems just like a normal human being that, like, to be honest, there seems like way more different ways he could have went about it. Some better, some far worse. Yeah. And I think he like.
I'm excited to watch that movie.
It's going to be interesting to see how like. I want to actually pay more attention into like how they cut the scenes with him in it, and how they like paint it. And like,
I mean, reportedly he was not pleased with how he came out.
Yeah,
or how he comes off.
Yeah,
he is definitely the villain in that movie.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Well, it's more or less like an underdog story.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's how they frame the other guy. But.
And despite the fact that I am severely afraid of litigation and legal troubles here.
I'm not.
I mean, that's your name on it.
Thank you for joining us on your... what is it?
I'm John Smith.
Yeah, John Smith.
John Doe, number one. No, like, I think there's mistakes that he made as well.
Sure.
Obviously.
I know you'll get into those.
Yeah, but it's... Like Twin Galaxies,
it's definitely a defense.
Overall too. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it was kind of a shit show.
Yeah,
like their heart was in the right place. It really was. I feel like they were trying to legitimize video games at a time.
They kind of did. Like,
they did
for sure. It's just
the way, and like
the more you dig into it,
the more you say like this was like real fast and loose. It's just kind of weird because like the Twin Galaxies is just another company, but when they get a company like Guinness Book of World Records tied to them, it immediately legitimizes everything they do.
I mean, at least in the public eye, though I do know that the Guinness Book of World Records has come under fire for like awards they've given out elsewhere, but I mean, by and large, and like.
I'm talking about the good old days of Guinness.
Hey, it was gospel. Like I had some of those books and stuff growing up. You would be inclined to.
I read it every single time I went to the dentist. Like
they still printed those like big hardy books for the fairs at school.
100%.
The 2000s.
Like Guinness Book of World Records. I mean, it's definitely come a long way. I mean, you can.
I don't hear about them as much anymore.
That's because you could submit anything for a record as long as you pay the fee.
Find a new category.
100%. There's a record for everything, right? And a lot of it now is about just like you got to pay the $400, $500 fee if you want to judge, aka to adjudicate it, aka get it done faster. It'll cost maybe upwards of like $1,500. But if you look online at like the different records out there, some of them are just ludicrous. I swear, it's like the YouTube channel dedicated strictly and only to VR chat with the most subscribers. It's like a record.
Of course it is.
Mm-hmm.
Of course. But yeah. But what are your thoughts? I feel like I've just been sitting here spouting about Twin Galaxies. For
No, I've just been. I was just focused.
Yeah.
I mean, I know the end. I feel like Walter Day is probably portrayed the most correctly in that movie, because they just show he's just like a very old, very passionate guy.
Yeah.
And like I think he just kind of like legitimately really liked video games.
That's awesome.
And legitimately had the opportunity to be like the adjudicator for Guinness. And there was no like, I'm going to make so much money off this thing. He was just like...
He saw it as a sport before
Yeah, he
else
was
did.
like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to put these video games on the map. And it was just like, there was too much. It was too much, I think.
Yeah.
It sounds like
Like
just
when you say it's a
handle,
shit
like...
show, it was like, it wasn't a shit show on purpose. It was just
No.
like so much
Yeah.
to...
No.
They were
for
figuring
that
it
one
out.
guy, yeah.
Like it's...
Yeah. And I mean, like the first pass through is never a clean cut. So it's like he really did like pave the way.
As evident by with the Major League Gaming and stuff. And
Oh,
we talked
yeah.
about that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, yeah, there's a reason Guinness didn't do it until Walter Day came along. And
Yeah.
it's the exact reason it was a shit show.
You needed
know?
someone like him.
Yeah.
And like he is definitely still passionate about video
Oh,
games.
yeah.
Like it's just
That's
a
it.
shame of how it kind of like unfolds, because he, like, when you have someone that's that wholesome, right, and that kind-hearted, they tend to get a following around them of just like pretty like less than savory characters.
Sure. And there's a lot of trust and misplaced
Yeah.
trust too. I mean, like now competitive games and esports is like $1 billion industry.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't then.
I mean, back then you were like, you got like $100 and you're like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Nowadays people have like buyout contracts for like $250,000. It's like, Jesus Christ.
It's crazy.
Like,
I mean, you want to talk about not just esports, but professional gaming. I mean...
Oh, well, all the sponsors come in and...
talk about, like, the buyout contracts for, like, Twitch streamers. It's like Ninja and Shroud's Mixer contracts that got bought out by Microsoft.
Yeah, that was money well spent.
Yeah.
it's easy to attack people on the top. I know there's a ton of people out there that are trying to be streamers, that are trying to like,
Oh, yeah.
trying to do
I
the
wasn't-
grind, all that jazz. God bless them. This is the part where I say, like,
fucking
man, I was just
exhausting.
born in the wrong generation. Fuck no. I'd never want to be a streamer.
No.
Oh, yeah, no, me neither.
Yeah.
There was a...
I don't envy that lifestyle.
We
at
do have a
all,
Twitch
at all.
channel. We have never streamed.
That's
And
what I was
probably
like,
never
we do.
will.
Maybe one day.
It is not an easy life.
No. Like,
We're just Truman showing ourselves. as
yeah, 100%. At least with a podcast, it's like,
Ludwig.
you say what you got to say. Oh, love.
Yep. The
Dude, his
man.
Smash commentary is so good. But yeah, like with a podcast, it's like, okay, we get to talk in a room. We put it out there. That is like the riskiest that we do. When you're streaming, it's like, dude, I'd be afraid that like the camera would catch me wrong and I'd be just looking like a fat slob.
I should.
I mean, the hardest part of podcasting is the fact that I have to edit this stuff for hours and hours,
Yeah.
which is a
I can't-
luxury
I can't
that
imagine
streamers don't get
a life without.
without editing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's terrifying to me.
That makes all my sounds sound professional.
I'm gonna make that sound real bad.
I know. I can't wait.
Well, next time, join us, and we'll dive further into the king.
The king himself, the king
Yep.
of Kong. Billy Mitchell is a very interesting character. I cannot wait to talk more about him.
Yeah,
Yes.
same here.
We'll talk about the man, the
And
myth, the legend.
And I think this was important
The
to
litigator.
getting there, because otherwise you wouldn't really kind of understand him and where he came from. And
No,
the
I
weight
mean,
of it
we kind of did the similar thing to the movie. I mean, the movie starts
True,
talking
yeah.
about Twin Galaxies, so
Yeah.
you can't really talk about Billy Mitchell without talking about Twin Galaxies.
No, you
he's
really
kind
can't
of
just jump
he's
in,
kind of
yeah.
intertwined into that story.
Yeah.
But yeah,
We'll do some plugs.
join us on part 2, where Randy will be trying Ricky's world famous Louisiana hot sauce live on the air.
God, I agreed to that.
Yep.
Dude, it's really good.
It
Yeah?
is so
It
good.
is so
yeah,
good.
I'm hyped,
Like,
actually.
it is a really good hot sauce.
It was tough to find for a little while. I'm glad
It
it's
is.
back.
Yeah. But yeah, thanks for listening.
Maybe some chips.
You can find our podcast on our website, hotbuttoncast.com. You can also find it on, I'm just going to stop saying specific services. It's on everything. Everything that pulls from iTunes, RSS
Yeah,
feed.
there's probably, I can't think of a place we're not.
Yeah, Apple, Google, Spotify, whatever. Subscribe on whatever service you prefer. And also follow our social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at HotButtonCast.
Mm-hmm.
And there we're going to post, previews for what's coming up. And you'll be able to see when our episodes are coming, when our commentaries for these movies are coming.
Yeah.
A little side note, in the past, we've done one commentary. And we did it before the episode. This time we're doing it after.
Yes.
So if you're listening to this and looking for the commentary, it's not out yet. It probably is out, maybe, but listen to the part 1 and part 2 before you dive into the movie commentary.
Yes. It'll help a lot.
Yes, yes.
But yeah, thank you, Austin. Thank you, Chris.
Yep.
We'll be back.
We'll be back with part 2.